Remember when hats were more like this, and less like this? From fitting the Queen's crown to inventing Charlie Chaplin's bowler, Lock & Co have been behind much of Britain's headwear history. This is the oldest hat shop in the world. Starting in 1676, Lock & Co are the oldest retail shop in London and the oldest hat shop in the world, making hats for the likes of Lord Nelson, Oscar Wilde, the Queen, Sean Connery, Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Cage, and the list just keeps on going.
My name is Roger Stephenson. I'm the Deputy Chairman of Lock & Co. I'm also one of the family members, one of the owners, and I am seventh generation of my family to be involved in the business. James Benning, who started the business in 1815, my however many great-grandfathers it is, he is the original Mad Hatter. Lewis Carroll was a customer of Lock's. James Benning looked after him and he was absolutely barking mad. So I'm a direct descendant of the Mad Hatter. The reason they're called Mad Hatters, or Mad as a Hatter, is that they used to put mercury in the hats to stiffen them. Then when you heated them, mercuric oxide used to come off the hats. It was a vapour, and it used to get into your central nervous system, and it used to completely send you round the twist.
Lock & Co have even served the likes of the royal family.
My grandfather fitted the crown for the Queen's coronation. Generally, women do have smaller heads than men. So before that, we had a series of kings. So the crown was in effect too big for her. We had to make a velvet pad that went inside it to actually size it down to the Queen's head shape, so the crown fitted perfectly. Winston Churchill was a great customer of ours. We have the ledger on display in our heritage room, which shows a lot of the hats he bought from us before and during the war. He loved his hats, and people say that you could almost map how the war went. When we weren't doing very well, or when there was a bit of a disaster or bad moments in the war, he used to cheer himself up by coming to Lock and buy himself another hat.
It's safe to say that Lock & Co fitted some pretty famous heads, so I just had to ask. Can you fit me for a hat?
Of course, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Paul. I'm a hatter here at Lock & Co. Because everyone's head shape is unique, we conform the shape of the hat to the shape of the wearer's head. So the way we do that is by using this Victorian device called a conformator. We put a piece of paper card in the lid. When the device is lowered down onto the head, the pins, which are spring-loaded, push up and make an impression on the card in a series of puncture holes, which is the shape of the head, 1/6 scale. We then cut that out around the dots, which becomes a template. A piece of paper then goes into another device called a 4 million, which is then adjusted and calibrated to the exact shape of the cardboard cutout. The hat is then made soft and malleable by the use of heat and sometimes steam, and then the 4 million will go in, and the hat is then moulded and shaped to fit the exact shape of the head.
Don't I look dashing? So what else have you guys done?
We invented the bowler hat in 1850. We call it a Coke hat or a cook hat, named after Sir William Coke, who was the Earl of Leicester. So he came to us, he said, I want a hat, a hard hat that is protective for horse riding, but it's got a dome crown so branches and things will glance off. So we went to the Bowler Brothers in Southwark on the other side of the river and commissioned them to make this prototype hat. Legend has it that when we showed Sir William Coke the original bowler hat, he put it on the ground, stamped on it, and it didn't break. And he said, that'll do nicely. And the bowler hat was born. Charlie Chaplin, he's one of the sort of famous bowler hat wearers. He was one of our customers, and if you go through to our heritage room, we have Charlie Chaplin's head shape on display.
And wasn't there some films you did?
If you think back to the first image of the first James Bond film in Dr. No, when he's staring down the gun barrel, he does that classic James Bond, he's wearing a lock trilby. My father fitted Sean Connery, my grandfather was involved in some of the original things with the Dr. No franchise. We fitted Odd Job, famously in Goldfinger, for the top hat that he used to kill his victims with the steel brim. Now we didn't make one with a steel brim, but we had to make quite a few different hats because they used some different scenes, including one that went through wires and that sort of stuff. So we had to make stunt hats for the film. You know, I think that's probably the first time ever. And we've carried on that tradition, and we've worked with the Bond franchise right through. We were very fortunate to be in the Kingsman film, which was a complete bit of luck. We weren't really approached, and it was just one of those things that they wanted to film, and they filmed the outside of the shop with Samuel L. Jackson, and it was, great piece of cinema. And we still get people to this day coming here purely because we were in the Kingsman film.
But it's not just men's hats at Lock & Co. In 1993, they entered the world of Haute Millinery.
My name is Awan Golding, and I'm the head millinery designer here at Lock & Co. The difference between millinery and hatting is millinery is specifically ladies' hats, hatting is traditionally men's hats. When you're designing for women, I think you have a much more open palette and canvas. You are not really bound by any kind of traditions. You know, you can be as expressive and as fashion forward as you want. I'm on the fun side here. When I'm designing a collection, because I do 2 season collections a year, so it's spring, summer, autumn, winter, each of those seasons bring with it different materials and different kind of color palettes and styles as well. I start with color, and then I look at shape. I'm inspired a lot by vintage in hats as well, because in the 1940s, millinery was such a huge thing. People were really expressing themselves through their millinery and also obviously their clothes. When you're working with celebrities, specifically, you know, Lady Gaga or something like that, it really is kind of a bit more out there and very fashion forwards. As with any client, actually, you're looking at creating something that is expressive of their kind of style. And obviously with Lady Gaga, that can be quite out there. Lady Gaga wore one of my pieces. It was this royal purple felt boater with like this crystallized veil, and she wore it while driving in LA, as you do. Björk was wearing one of my hats for Robert I, who's this fabulous haute couture designer. It was a head-to-toe look that he'd created, and it was like this ink splash ensemble, and the hat has this giant quill going across it, and there's this big blue ink splash on the hat, and that was for Vogue Scandinavia. It's always a buzz, I think, to see your hat being worn by someone who is completely fabulous and embodies female empowerment.
It's lovely when we get people coming into the store where their grandfather used to come in, and they've inherited their grandfather's hats, and they've always wanted a lock hat for themselves. And it's a very great feeling when people come in and say, I've always aspired to own one myself. Hats are quite cool at the moment, and you see a lot of celebrities wearing them, whether it's Johnny Depp or David Beckham or the whole Peaky Blinder thing. That is bringing hats to a new generation who are rediscovering them.